Entrada with repeats?
Unless
6 feet.
Is the,
Sure.
oh, the handwritten one or the printed one?
what do you mean handwritten one print?
Well, there's
Oh,
a
the handwritten, yeah.
yeah,
The manuscript.
sure.
I wonder why someone didn't come up with the printed.
This is horn and trombone up front for a while. Oh wow, I can't read mine.
With repeats.
Would you like the tempo?
Sorry.
Is the tempo okay this
It's
morning?
just sloppy enough, isn't it?
Do you see the lady in the green outfit?
I do not.
Playing hide and
We
seek.
got excited and we started
Playing hide and seek.
the what else? What's another good one in here?
What's another good one in here?
We're still 5 minutes out.
Him, the Full of Bliss is too long.
Yeah.
6 pieces, pretzel.
That the Mauer worked. Oh, pretzel is good too. Yeah.
All right.
Pretzel?
Sure.
I'm on the mic. Sorry.
The first one, Entrada, we do with repeats.
These mics are really hot.
If I have to cut you off, I'll cut you off.
Pretzel. Pretzel it is.
See this guy with his phone? He's recording. He's probably going to make a CD.
He's not going to sell many copies. I'll tell you what.
Could you speak into the mic?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages,
Mine's really hot.
D Generation X is proud to. What? Entrada?
Entrada
Okay.
with repeats.
All right. Dominant sound.
If you have to do it again, we'll start from the top.
On top?
On top
With
of
the
the
fanfare?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Okay, again.
Again?
Trumpets, ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great privilege to welcome you to the commencement ceremony for the Tulane University Law School class of 2017. We will begin our ceremony today with the national anthem performed by the Crescent City Brass. Will you please rise? Please be seated. Graduates, families, friends, and colleagues, welcome. This is a day of great celebration, one that may have seemed a long time in coming, though. Nearly 3 years ago, for most of you, the JD students who arrived at orientation on that sweltering and, if you recall, stormy day, that sweltering day in August in 2014, you came from every corner of the country. Those enrolled in our LLM programs or in the graduate programs of the law school's Payson program for global development, many of you came from even greater distances, from 18 countries spanning the globe, from Azerbaijan to Ecuador, from Ghana to China. Teachers, engineers, veterans, musicians, you each brought your own rich experiences and talents. And you set out on an adventure that has bonded you together through common rituals of hardship and triumph. Conquering the outline, tangling with the rule against perpetuities, managing the answer the first time you were called on in class, confronting that first set of final exams. These rituals may now seem so familiar as to be unremarkable, but it's worth pausing to recall how monumental they surely once appeared. In navigating these landmarks, whether you now fully appreciate it or not, you have been transformed. The past years of toil and triumph have left you with a command of legal methods and doctrine, but they have done something more. They have steeped you in the norms and values of a profession, and what it means to be a lawyer. The same is true for those of you graduating from the Payson program in global development, who have been forged together by a common experience and a common passion for changing lives around the globe. Of course, this has not been a journey only for the graduates in this hall, but also for those who love and support them. For you, the parents, partners, children, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and other family members of today's graduates, these past years of study have brought sacrifices of your own. Many of you have worked extremely hard to make it possible for your loved ones to reach this milestone. Graduates, I invite you now to stand, to turn around, and to applaud those who have supported you in reaching this moment. This moment is yours, first and foremost, but it is not yours alone. This commencement is an important moment as well in the life of our law school, because it marks your transition from students to alumni. This is Tulane Law School's 166th commencement. Tulane grew from humble beginnings in 1847 in a borrowed courtroom in the Customs House downtown, and it graduated its first class just 6 months later. Yes, Tulane's first law students were deemed ready to practice law just after a half year of study. Those were simpler times, and they didn't have to take the bar exam either, or at least not any that you would recognize. As most of you look ahead to multi-day exams and to bar review courses, for some of you starting even on Monday, you could fairly long for those earlier days. Until the turn of the last century, the requirements for admission to the bar were notably informal. Aspiring lawyers were simply quizzed by a judge or a lawyer appointed by the court. If successful, it was often the custom that the applicant would then treat his examiners to dinner at a local tavern. Abraham Lincoln, in his early career as a lawyer riding the circuit in Illinois, regularly served as a bar examiner. An account by Jonathan Birch, one of the lawyers Lincoln certified, captures the spirit of the exam. Birch recalled being summoned to Lincoln's hotel room in Bloomington, Illinois in 1858 or 1859. Once there, Lincoln sat on the edge of his bed and fired a series of questions at Birch, which seemed only thinly connected with law. What books have you read? What is the definition of a contract was probably the most substantial. But Lincoln ultimately seemed more interested in entertaining Birch with stories of his own exploits as a lawyer and offering sage advice. The whole proceeding, Birch later wrote, was interesting, yet so unusual, if not grotesque, that I was at a loss to determine whether I was really being examined or not. In short order, Lincoln dashed out a note, sealed it in an envelope, and directed Birch to take it to the court in Springfield. The note read, "My dear Judge, the bearer of this is a young man who thinks he can be a lawyer. Examine him if you want to. I have done so and am satisfied. He's a good deal smarter than he looks to be. Yours, Lincoln." Now, before you long too hard for those breezier days of 6-month law schools and chatty bar exams, it must be conceded that the world today is very different. Law school and bar exams are longer and more substantial because the law itself is more sprawling and complex. And with it, so too is the lawyer's role in society. Lawyers today shape debates in government over the permissibility of torture and surveillance, the justifications for war, and the end of life. Increasingly, basic questions of social policy are entangled in questions of law. This is not always good, but it is real, and it makes lawyers ever more influential. That means that you will have special opportunities to change our society, and also that you bear special responsibility to use your influence for good. Our master's and doctoral graduates in global development will, of course, also have opportunities to remake our world, whether crafting policies for justice reform in Africa, combating disease and under-resourced communities closer to home. When you leave here today and advance in your careers, I hope you will reflect on the motivations that brought you to Tulane and on your experiences here. In the years ahead, you will face a world not only of opportunities, but also inevitably of challenges not yet seen, just as Lincoln himself did a few years after that jovial exam. Always remember that we are enormously proud of you and that you do not face these challenges alone. The walk across this stage is not the end of your relationship with Tulane, but only an early milestone. So stay in touch in the months and years ahead. Let us know how we can help you in your careers, and in time, reach back and help the students who will follow you. and know always how proud we are forever to be associated with you. It is now my great privilege to introduce one of our distinguished alumni, the Honorable Cedric Richmond, to deliver the graduation address. A native New Orleanian, Cedric Richmond earned his undergraduate degree from Morehouse College before graduating from Tulane Law School in 1998. The very next year, he was elected to the Louisiana House of Representatives, becoming one of the youngest members ever to serve in our state's legislature, and ultimately rising to chair the Judiciary Committee during his 11-year tenure. In 2010, he was elected to represent Louisiana's 2nd Congressional District in the United States House of Representatives, a district covering much of New Orleans and stretching across 9 parishes to Baton Rouge. Now in his 4th term, Congressman Richmond serves on the House Judiciary and Homeland Security Committees. Last fall, he was elected chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. At age 43, he is one of the youngest members ever to chair that influential caucus, which now includes 49 members of Congress representing 78 million Americans. Congressman Richmond's leadership and prominence, however, extends beyond the halls of Congress to reach the baseball diamond as well. The New York Times recently hailed him as the Babe Ruth of Congress for his consistently dominating performance on the pitching mound and at the plate in the annual congressional baseball game between Democrats and Republican members. Based on a multi-year analysis of player performance, the Times concluded that Congressman Richmond, quote, dominates the congressional game much as Ruth dominated the American League in 1920. We are enormously proud to call Congressman Richmond one of our own. Please join me in welcoming him back to the law school.
Let me first start off by thanking Dean David Meyer for having me today and giving me the honor of being your graduation speaker. Let me just start with full disclosure. One, about the congressional baseball game. It's not hard to be the best whenever, one, when they're Republicans, and two, when they're Republicans and they're 70 years old. So, I will just say it's really surreal to be back at Tulane School of Law at the graduation, because it reminds me of one of my greatest nightmares, and I have 3 reoccurring nightmares. One of which is that Tulane will wake up one day and realize it was probably a computer glitch when my name came across the screen as completing all the requirements to receive my law degree. The second nightmare is that the city of New Orleans will finally track down the license plate to the car that I used to park in these neighborhoods and accumulate the thousands and thousands of dollars worth of tickets that I had. And the running joke was, if they ever put a boot on my car, I would say, congratulations, you just bought yourself a new car. And the last nightmare, really is not that long ago, just a 100 or so days ago, and it just goes back to that election night. Not the fact that I won, but the fact that somebody else lost. And I keep waking up wondering if it's just a bad dream and that everything would be okay. But let me just also say, in seriousness, taking Tulane and having a law degree from Tulane, when you talk public service, you really just become one among many influential people that chose public service. And not being a politician, but public service, which means doing things for other people for free. It means doing things to help others in their life because that's your calling. So if we think back to some of those Tulane graduates that answered that calling, you hear some really great names. You hear of Hale Boggs, that was a United States congressman and held this seat. And then when Hale rose to majority leader, and then when he died, his wife ran for the seat and served many, many years and was a very distinguished leader in the United States. Also, you think of Huey Long, who was a Tulane Law graduate, who was the governor of Louisiana and then served in the United States Senate. Or you think closer to our time, you think of Senator John Hinkle, which was the first person to ever serve as both the Speaker of the House in the State House and as President of the Senate in the State Senate. So when you think of Tulane, think of an institution and a body and a law school that produces not only great legal minds, but legal minds that have the calling to serve the public. And no matter how unpopular public service is, it's something that the school really embeds in us to take very seriously to make a difference in this country. So let me just say to you all, to the class of 2017, congratulations for making it out of Tulane's law school. And you finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. Well, you still have that thing they call the bar exam, but we won't talk about that. And to the parents and the spouses and the friends, let me just congratulate you, and the families, congratulate you on adding a lawyer to the family or another lawyer to the family. But before you do all that hollering and cheering, let me just remind you of one thing. You now have somebody at your dinner table at holidays that will know everything. They will love to argue. They won't want to lose. And if they do lose the argument, they will fall back to my statement that I give my mother all the time, which is, well, which one of us graduated from law school? So just be ready for that. And students, I know you all are a couple of things right now. I know you're relieved, I know you're excited, I know you're anxious. Some of you probably a little hungover. But it's your day and you deserve all of those feelings because you've earned them all. But let me just talk a little bit about what being a lawyer means and what it means today. Because if you think back to the great trial lawyer, Daniel Webster, he said, justice is the greatest concern of man on earth. And you all are the tools to make sure that justice is applied. Now, I know that many of you all are thinking about going out and joining a big firm, making big money, buying a big car, and living in a big house. But just remember that conscientious attorneys are key to our government working. Local government, state government, the U.S. government, attorneys are what keeps the system honest. And we have thousands and thousands of Americans that depend on you to make sure that the system is being honest. Now, I know many of you are probably thinking, Cedric, that's great. Everybody, could do that. But I have $50, $60, $100, $150,000 in student loans, and I can't go just answer the calling for service. I know those feelings. Sally Mae still calls me every month like I owe her child support. But just know that it's a sacrifice. And there's an old teaching throughout time that says, to whom much is given, much is required. And not that anything in life was given to you but the opportunity. And you seized the opportunity. And the obligation that goes with that is to make sure that you create and preserve that opportunity for others. So it's now up to you to make sure that justice and equality and all of those things are more than just words on a page, that this country actually lives up to those ideals in practice. You're joining a profession that carries a great weight, but it's also a very noble profession. You're the only profession, you will be the only people that have the right and the ability to go into a courtroom and advocate on behalf of others. So you have to remember that when you do that comes different responsibilities. You have to resist that urge to win at all costs. You have to remember that it's the process that is just as important as the outcome. You have to remember the pillars of the justice system and that you have to stand in stark contrast to what is wrong. You have to be above reproach. And if you think back to what Confucius says, he says to know what is right and not to do it is the worst cowardice. And I'm asking you as Tulane Law graduates to be strong because we don't produce cowards. We produce people that will swim upstream, people that will say what is needed to say, people that will be the conscience of this great country. And let me just give you some statistics about what happens when people sit back and not do what's right in stark times. Let's just look at Louisiana. At least 49 Louisiana prisoners and 6 federal prisoners have been exonerated from wrongful convictions. 11 were sentenced to death. 13 were sentenced to life without parole, and 18 were sentenced to life. Those are just the ones we know of. So remember, for those who will decide that I want to be a prosecutor and make our community safe, I applaud you for that. But remember, your goal is not to have a great conviction rate. Your goal is to be honest, steadfast, and true, and to weigh all and put out all of the evidence and make your best argument. But it's up to that jury and that judge to decide guilt or innocence. So when we decide not to put all of the facts on the table, or we decide not to call all the witnesses, remember, we are putting our great democracy at harm. And I would remind you of an old Egyptian proverb that says, because we're focused on the snake, we miss the scorpion. And I will just say that I want you to stay focused, but you have to be aware, because I don't want you to get stung by the scorpion while you're just simply trying not to get bitten by the snake. And since the dean mentioned congressional baseball, I'll give you an old baseball story on staying focused. Yogi Berra is one of the greatest catchers of all time. New York Yankee catcher, talked a lot of garbage. But that's what he was known for. And this young kid came up, Hank Aaron, in the World Series. And Hank comes to the plate, and Yogi Berra says, "Hey, Hank." Hank ignores him. He said, "Hank." Hank looks back, he says, "You know, Hank, you have to turn the baseball bat so that you can read the writing on it when you're about to hit the ball." Hank just ignores him. So he says, "Hank, turn the writing around so the bat won't crack when you hit the ball." Hank ignores him. First pitch comes. Hank hits a home run in the World Series. He trots around the bases. When he gets to home plate, he says, "Hey, Yogi, I didn't come to the plate to read. I came to the plate to hit the ball." So I tell you that because in life you will hear a bunch of chatter and you will hear a bunch of noise. You have to stay focused on what you're doing. And the noise will come from naysayers, or haters is what I call them. But you'll hear them. They'll tell the lawyer jokes all day long until they need one. And I can tell you, because this is Tulane, I know we have a bunch of doctors in the room, and you can look at the United Airlines case that we just had, and I was talking about it in the back room. You know, that doctor that was pulled off that airline, I bet you 2 months ago he was talking about medical malpractice reform and how bad lawyers are because they're always suing doctors. But when you are done wrong and people treat you with injustice, the first person you call is a lawyer. After Katrina, when I was in the state legislature, all of my buddies who talked about tort reform and how bad lawyers were and how we mistreated the insurance companies. Well, when our houses were 8 feet underwater, and we had to fight with the insurance companies about what was flood damage and what was wind and hail and rain and all of this other stuff, all of those same anti-lawyers came to seek us because they felt that they were wrong. And I say that to say that you have an obligation to fight for injustice, no matter how unattractive the client may be, or how bad they talk about lawyers. And I'll just close with this, your profession and the nobility. Think about back to almost the beginning of time, but your profession and your calling is actually mentioned in the Bible 3 times. And I won't give you all 3 quotes, but I'll give you the passage from Psalms 82:3 that says, "Give justice to the weak and the fatherless. Maintain the rights of the afflicted and the destitute." That's your calling. And it wasn't long ago that an attorney I respect, Walt Leger, was giving a speech to the Bar Association. And he talked about the calling and the responsibility, and he said that there is no greater professional calling than to stand as a lawyer at the foot of the bar of justice and breathe life into the Constitution, into the Bill of Rights, into statutory law, into common law, by defining, asserting, and defending the rights of its citizens. So if you think of those rights of its citizens, think back to the beginning of this great nation and our greatest philosophers at the time that crafted and built this country. Many of them were lawyers. If you think of Andrew Hamilton, who defended the first case about freedom of press and the right to report free of censorship and interference, he was a lawyer. Think about Thomas Jefferson as he defined in writing the rights of American citizens. He was a lawyer. Think of James Madison as he fought for the Bill of Rights, what would be included in it, and what it meant to Americans. Thomas Jefferson was a lawyer. Think of James Madison. Think of Abraham Lincoln, who we all saw with tears in his eyes at the Gettysburg Address as he rededicated our country to the principle of equal justice for all. And then skip centuries to a Thurgood Marshall, who went back to court to refine and improve upon that notion of true equality and equal justice for all. So the question becomes not where you are today and how far you've come, but the question is, where will you be when the fight for justice and equality knocks at your doorstep? The good news is that you all are graduates of Tulane University School of Law, and I know that you will always answer the calling to fight for justice and equality. And we have to remember that this country is not a perfect country, nor has it ever been. But because of you, if you wake up every day remembering that part of your calling is to make this a more perfect union for the people that come behind you, you will leave a legacy that will be undoubtedly irreplaceable or erasable in history's annals. So I will give you this: enjoy your day and party like there's no tomorrow. I welcome you as a fellow graduate of Tulane, but remember, after you pass that bar exam on the first attempt, you have a greater calling, and that is to make this world a better place, one person, one case, one day at a time. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Congressman Richmond, for those inspiring remarks, and we are grateful for your service in Washington and for your support and advocacy for Tulane as well. Next, I'm pleased to introduce the president of the law school class of 2017 to offer remarks on behalf of the class. William Igbokwe is a native of Jacksonville, Texas, where, following Congress Richmond's example of early public service, he once ran for mayor. He later graduated from the University of Texas at Austin, where he was a champion debater. At Tulane, he has used those skills not only to become a leader of his class, but also the most accomplished student oral advocate in the history of Tulane Law School. He was named the best oral advocate in Tulane's internal moot court competition for each of his 3 years of law school, best advocate in the regional trial competition of the Black Law Students Association moot court, a first for a Tulane law student, and best advocate at the 10th annual John Costello National Mock Trial Competition, another first for a Tulane law student, and led his 3-person team with fellow graduates Marco Salgado and Brian Trepanier to Tulane Mock Trial's first national championship in school history. After graduation, he will fittingly work in trial practice for a law firm in Hartford, Connecticut. Please join me in welcoming William Igbokwe.
Thank you, Dean Meyer, for the introduction. No pressure. Good evening, friends and family, and welcome to Tulane University's Class of 2017 Law School Commencement. Now let's get this show on the road, shall we? Back in 1776. That's a joke. We're not going to start the speech off in 1776. It's been a really long day, and I don't think the law school was open in 1776, so let's move on. In all seriousness, my name is William Igbokwe. I'm the class of 2017 law school president, and I'm also one of about 165 graduates who are here this evening to receive their Juris Doctorate degree, or what many of us know to be a law degree. But as it turns out, the Juris Doctorate students aren't the only people here this evening who are receiving degrees from Tulane Law School. You see, here at Tulane Law School, we offer a variety of degrees, and we have an incredible body of international students who are also here this evening to receive their law degrees. Now, virtually all of our international law students who won't be receiving a Juris Doctorate degree will instead be receiving a degree that either makes them a Master of Laws, otherwise known as the LLM degree. They could be receiving a degree that makes them a Doctor of Juridical Science, otherwise known as the SJD degree. They could be receiving their Masters of Science, or they could be receiving their PhDs. Now, the international students here at Tulane Law School are from all over the world, and they represent countries like Argentina, Austria, Azerbaijan, China, Canada, Costa Rica, Cameroon, Dominican Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ecuador, France, Germany, Ghana, Pakistan, Panama. I knew that was coming. Senegal, Qatar, Taiwan, the United Kingdom, and of course, the United States. Now, even though the degrees most of our international students are receiving this evening are different technically than the Juris Doctorate degrees, well, their value and their contribution to Tulane Law School as students and more importantly, as people, is just as important as anyone else's. And I wanted to start off our conversation this evening by mentioning that in particular because, well, friends and family, as you all are about to find out, Tulane Law School is just as much a community as it is an institution of learning. And as we all know, communities are important. They're essential even because good communities build camaraderie, good communities foster courage, and good communities develop character. Now, one of the things that's important to keep in mind throughout the course of this evening is that all across the country this weekend, there are thousands of law students who are graduating from law school in the class of 2017. But only a couple hundred of those law students are graduating from Tulane Law School. And so the question to ask then is what, if anything, makes us different? Well, let's start first by taking a look at the community here at Tulane Law School. You see, our community is comprised of many different parts, and these parts are working together in tandem to ensure that the graduating students are receiving the best education possible. For example, we have a maintenance crew who work hard every day to ensure that the law school is clean and inhabitable. We have an assortment of deans and administrators. We have an assortment of deans and administrators who are in charge of the day-to-day operations of Tulane Law School. And then we have our professors. And our professors at Tulane Law School are some of the most brilliant legal minds on the planet. Now, for the friends and families and loved ones in attendance this evening who don't have much familiarity with law school, well, let me put it to you this way. You see, obtaining a good legal education is a bit more complicated than knowing what the law is or isn't. And so then thank goodness for professors like Professor Hancock and Professor Hopeful, professors who do more than just teach us about principles of free speech and the rules of evidence, but also teach us how to apply those principles and rules to real-world circumstances. Thank goodness for educators like Professor Metzger and Professor Wesley, professors who, in teaching us the law as it relates to criminal procedure or due process, also take time to emphasize the shortcomings of the law and the consequences of those shortcomings as they extend beyond the pages in our textbooks and into the lives of real people. And thank goodness for an educator like Professor Matambananzo, who in teaching us the law and its relationship with businesses and corporations, or in teaching us about the law's historical treatment of women, makes it clear that sometimes the law isn't the solution. Sometimes the law is the problem. You see, here at Tulane, we host a community of professors who do more than just tell us what the law is or isn't. They teach us how to interact with the law. They teach us how to perform the law. And they teach us how to use the law. But of course, community here at Tulane Law School is more than just a physical structure that's comprised of buildings and classrooms and professors. Community here at Tulane Law School is also a feeling. It's the feeling we had 3 years ago at orientation, taking the oath of professionalism, thinking, wow, is this law school or is this a cult? What the hell did we just sign up for? It's the feeling we had submitting the last final examination during our first semester in law school, standing in the hallway amongst a sea of our classmates, simultaneously exhaling in relief and in solidarity. It's the feeling that we were really lucky to be able to depend upon the camaraderie of a few close classmates who eventually grew into friends, some of whom are today like family. For me personally, day one classmates who are today lifelong friends, people like Abigail Peak, Marco Salgado, Jake Cronish, Melanie Molaski, Amelia Carter, Brian Trepanier. You see, these feelings that are forged from these moments created by the bonds we established here at Tulane Law School, that's also community. Now, friends and family, rest assured, where there is a community building project of the Tulane variety, well, there's also an experiment in courage. Now, make no mistake about it. Every single degree receiving individual sitting in this room this evening has acted courageously in pursuit of their legal education. Making the decision to pursue a legal education is an act of courage. Investing in yourself financially in pursuit of that education is an act of courage. Moving to a new city, or in some instances, a new country, in pursuit of that education is an act of courage. Speaking up, be it in a courtroom, a classroom, a clinic, for a client, or for yourself, is an act of courage. And sometimes, for some of us, just getting out of bed and facing another day is in and of itself an act of courage. Look, the reality is this: whether you've actively chosen to demonstrate it or whether the circumstances have forced it out of you, every single person sitting in this room receiving a degree this evening has at one point or another demonstrated some amount of bravery or fortitude just to get to this moment. And so, friends and family, it shouldn't be surprising to you then that the community we built here at Tulane and the courage that's been on display en route to commencement has resulted in a graduating class that is chock full of character. This evening, Tulane Law School will confer degrees upon 200 some odd graduates who together embody every attribute and every trait that you could ever want in a legal advocate. Traits like selflessness and altruism, embodied in graduates like Geyer Bogan and Caroline Carmer, embodied in graduates like Dana Bowman and Elizabeth Hoffman, embodied in graduates like Helen Buckley, Samantha Fotenhauer, Chris Edmonds, all graduates who have consistently dedicated their time and their energy to the class of 2017 and to the city of New Orleans. Traits like honesty and level-headedness that you can rely upon from people like Ian Mai and Fernanda Lenga, two people who are always with sound mind and good advice for their friends and for their peers. And traits like unflappable professionalism, embodied in the likes of Julie Bartons and Rachel Galata, two graduates in the class of 2017 who have led their respective student organizations with grace and with poise. You see, friends and family, it's these graduates and their exemplary character that's just a few examples of Tulane Law School's graduating class of 2017 and all of its mighty and endless potential. Now, before I take my seat, I think it's important that I extend this conversation about courage and character beyond the confines of the community that we've developed here at Tulane Law School because, well, quite frankly, as graduates, our time here at Tulane is up. And no offense to the friends and the family here in attendance, but this is the part of the conversation where I really want to level with my classmates. Now, for all intents and purposes, every single person sitting in this room wearing the regalia is officially a lawyer, the bar examination notwithstanding. And it's my hope, sincerely, as a fellow classmate, that every single person sitting in this room wearing the regalia understands and appreciates that as lawyers, well, it's not just the legal profession that's entitled to our protection and to our attention. You see, this profession is also the gatekeeper of democracy. And so when you see things like the routine dismissal of fact and data and truth becoming commonplace, well, you in particular should be alarmed. And when you hear things like the most powerful people in our country saying and doing things to denigrate the most vulnerable people in our society, the sick, the poor, the differently abled, racial minorities, religious minorities, well, you all in particular are now prepared. And at the conclusion of this commencement ceremony tonight, after we all make our way back outside into the real world and realize that that's actually the environment that we're living in today, well, to you all in particular, I say you have a duty to resist. Because today is about so much more than graduating from law school, getting a job, and paying off student loans. Today is about tomorrow, and tomorrow has always been about our legacy. And speaking of legacy, the official motto of Tulane University, an institution that's now our alma mater, is Non sibi sed sui, translated from Latin to English as not for oneself, but for one's own, a truly noble pursuit. But when considering the world that we live in as it exists today, and in light of the responsibility we've just been conferred here at this commencement ceremony, well, perhaps the more important project, the more courageous project for the class of 2017 is not for oneself and not just for one's own, but for everyone. Friends and family, thank you so much for your time and your attention. To my own family in particular, who's here in attendance, my mom, my siblings, my aunts and uncles, and to my father who couldn't make it, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for your undying love and support. And to my classmates in the class of 2017, to you all in particular, I say thank you, and I say congratulations, because we have arrived.
Thank you, Will. You lived up to your billing in every respect. Next, representing graduates of the Payson Program for Global Development, we are pleased to welcome Lisa Patterson, who graduates today with a master's in global development. Lisa was born in Malaysia and spent the first 12 years of her childhood there, regularly assisting her mother in providing help to Vietnamese children in refugee camps in the country. Later, she returned to her family's native Louisiana and earned her bachelor's degree from LSU in environmental management before again heading overseas to work on rural development projects. Lisa has balanced her graduate studies in global development with work as a Tulane University staff member, currently as assistant director of the Commitment to Equity Institute in Tulane's economics department. She's also balanced all of that with motherhood, and her son Hunter is 7 months old today. Please welcome Lisa Patterson.
Thank you, Dean Meyer, for that introduction. And I want to thank all the Payson professors, who I don't believe most are here today, for their generosity in sharing their knowledge and their experience. It's been amazing learning from them, and sad to see the graduate program close. I also want to thank in particular Dr. Sloan for being the captain of this interdisciplinary rabble and getting us through with such kind grace. And I also want to thank my classmates, who I have thoroughly enjoyed this journey with. I, as a full-time worker, have taken my time getting through the program, so I've been through a few cohorts, but without a doubt, some of the most amazing people I've met, and I look forward to our friendship going forward. And I also want to thank them for electing me as their representative, which I was truly honored with until I realized I had to write a speech and speak in front of a lot of people. So I did have a speech prepared and was very nervous about it and ran it across my husband and a friend, and the review and feedback was not very promising. So they told me to relax and to try and think about just a conversation I would have with my fellow Paysonites at the end of this journey and where we're going next. And so I guess this is my conversation with you guys. Wow, it's been an amazing journey and an enlightening one. And though I am not extremely sad to see the end of long papers and presentations and Dr. Sam's 24-hour tests, I am very sad and will miss your discussions. And I think that is some of where a lot of our learning has come from, and hand it to our professors for constantly opening that dialogue to get us to think on our feet and really look at the models that we were proposing to change in the world. So I would say that we have definitely learned a lot, definitely in theory and a bit in practical too, gained in part from this motley network of friends that we have made in each other. When you pursue your dreams in life, I find that it acts as a filter, and you start to find yourself in place with the people that share your vision of the world and share your cares and compassions, even though they come from a diverse background. And I find that I find similar reasons for us to all take this journey and pursue making the world a little bit better, hopefully. And I see great passion in all of you. A love for humanity and a belief that there are solutions. So, what luck we find ourselves at this moment in time, right here and right now, with the world turning ever more towards fear and the hateful actions that it breeds. A U.S. administration waging war on a full attack on democracy, a refugee crisis at epic proportions, and terrorism of all kinds on the rise. And in this hyper-globalized world, we have the ability to see and know so much more and faster than we've ever before. And in that same vein, we also have the ability to affect as much. Revolutions initiated on Facebook. So what are we gonna do, and how are we gonna make a dent in this teeming mass of conflicts and crises? I believe that we have the power in our ideas, a network of ideas, and I have seen in all of you such creative minds and such compassionate hearts, and I know that we can attack it from all sectors because you have such broad interests, and what a rich pool of resources we have within ourselves. And I'm really excited to make this journey with you guys into international development. So what you might ask is international development, and we've all joked about this in our coursework, that I think when you sum it down, it is the facilitation of change. We have often spoken of the need to make change within international development modus operandi ourselves. We have analyzed the different models that our predecessors have implemented, and we know that to make real change, it has to start with at the ground level. I feel a revolution at foot, and I wonder how, when we make the next steps into our future careers, are gonna change ourselves. And I have 3 lessons that I'd like to share with you, and things that I feel I've drawn from the class, or in our program and our learning. And the first one is that community is everything. It lives and dies with the community where you get buy-in and where you know about them, and they are ultimately the people that we are going to affect, and that community exists at all levels. And to borrow from a fellow Paysonite, my second lesson is that the comparative advantage is being there, is showing up. So I know you are all travel bugs, and a large part of the reason why you're here is for those community experiences you've had somewhere out in the wide world, and it's drawn you to want to make this journey and study development and try and impact change in your own communities. So go, get out there. And the last one is that sustainable change comes from collaboration, and that's whether it's interagency collaboration between local groups and governments, or it's interdisciplinary learning when you have degrees like international development or biomimicry, these sorts of new ways that we get the pool of our solutions from and innovate. And to echo the previous speaker, do not let the root of all the noise distract you from the root of conflict. So if we are going to be the green wave that rolls, I'm looking forward to seeing us change the tide.
Thank you very much, Lisa. To present this year's Teaching Awards, I am pleased to call on Professor Onig Dombalagian, our Vice Dean for Academic Affairs. Onig.
Thank you, Dean Meyer. At the Unified Commencement ceremony earlier today, Professor Jancy Hofel received the 2017 President's Award for Excellence in Graduate and Professional Teaching, Tulane University's highest honor for outstanding teaching and educational excellence. The letters from students supporting Professor Hofel's nomination underscored the profound positive impact she leaves on the lives of our graduates, balancing rigor in teaching with compassionate mentorship of our students as they chart a career in the law. In the words of one student, Jancy Hofel is the very essence of what Tulane University was, what it is, and what it can and should be. Please join me in congratulating Professor Hofel once again. Each year, the members of the graduating JD and LLM classes vote on 2 awards to be conferred at graduation for outstanding teaching. It is my privilege to announce, on behalf of the graduating classes and Tulane Law School, the recipients of this year's Teaching Awards. The first award, named in honor of Monty Lemon, a Tulane alumnus, practitioner, civic leader, and teacher, is presented to a member of the adjunct faculty for outstanding teaching and service. This year's recipient has served on our adjunct faculty since 2008. Students describe him as a challenging and inspiring teacher, both for clarity of presentation and the enthusiasm he brings to the classroom. In addition to teaching marine pollution, he has shown selfless dedication to the law school community, notably as Secretary-Treasurer of the Tulane Admiralty Law Institute, which serves as an invaluable resource both for JD and graduate students in and for alumni of our Admiralty and Maritime Law program. Please join me in congratulating the recipient of the 2017 Monty Lemon Award for Excellence in Adjunct Teaching, Professor Joshua Force. May the Force always be with you. The second award, named in honor of U.S. Supreme Court Justice Felix Frankfurter, is presented to the member of the full-time faculty who, in the opinion of the graduating class, has demonstrated an outstanding commitment to teaching and classroom instruction. This year's recipient, I'm proud to say, is soon to be our most recently tenured colleague. She is recognized as an exemplary citizen for her service to the law school, across campus of the Newcomb College Institute, and to the state of Louisiana. As a pioneering scholar and academic leader in the fields of legal personhood, feminist legal theory, and pregnancy discrimination, as a mentor to students from all walks of life, and of course, as an extraordinary teacher. Students describe her as a charismatic and dynamic professor who possesses a rare combination of striking intelligence and approachability. She's praised for her natural facility in challenging students' creative thought and in leading and engaging thought-provoking conversations, both within and outside the classroom. Please join me in congratulating the recipient of the 2017 Felix Frankfurter Distinguished Teaching Award, Professor Saru Matambanazo.
Congratulations to Saru and Josh and Jancy. Each year, we honor the class who graduated 50 years ago. The class of 1967 had it easier than this year's class in some respects. Tuition then was just about what a semester's worth of books cost today. But on the other hand, they also had contracts class with the legendary and imposing Mitchell Franklin 6 days a week at 8 a.m., 9 o'clock on Saturdays. Well, we are honored today to be joined by members of the class of 1967, and including, and if you would rise as I call your name, Marion Farmer, Judge Robert Lebrano, James Neset, David Perlis, Alfred Price, Robert Vosbein, Ronald Wood, and Malcolm Ziegler. I now ask the class of 2017 to rise and acknowledge the class of 1967, as someday the class of 2067 will honor you. Thank you. We now come to the much anticipated presentation of the graduates of 2017. Let me now ask the marshals to lead the graduates to the stage. As your name is called by Professor Davis, please step forward to receive your diploma.
Candidates for Juris Doctor: Tyler McDowell Allen, William Connor Anderson, magna cum laude, Lloyd Garrett Anglin, Clayton Harris Anthony, cum laude, Hugh Arsenault, Ebony Monique Arrington, Hugh Daniel Baker, Julie Bartons, Dana Ann Bowman, Jennifer Claire Bergeron, Jesse Harrison Blunt, William Wilson Blunt, Gaia Bogan, Alexandra Diane Bourbon, Joshua Lee Bowman, magna cum laude, Madeline Diane Brewer, Sam Bruguera, Helen Meredith Buckley, Brianna D. Burkhart, Alan Clark Burrell, Jr., David Austin Burry, cum laude, Michael Nolan Bush, Suzanne Cecilia Byrne, cum laude,
Amanda Ellen Callahan. Amelia Marie Carter. Caroline Alexandra Karma. Adam Ross Weitzel Cassingham. Gregorio Tiburcio Castillo. Shu Chen. Tyler Cole Cooley. Johanna Lee Cousins, magna cum laude. Andrew Michael Cox, summa cum laude. Gabriel Ray Crane, cum laude. Gordon Christopher Cranner, magna cum laude. Amanda Lee Crawford, summa cum laude. Lindsay Rachel Kurovitz. Alexandra Jane Davis, cum laude. Ariana Elizabeth Digodi, magna cum laude. Russell Reginald Dixon. Christopher Gervais Donnelly. Shan Yi Du. Tyler Jacob Dunphy, summa cum laude. Virginia Sheridan DuPont, magna cum laude. Casey Jill Ebner. Michael Robert Eddington. Margaret Rose Eder. Christopher Francis Edmonds, magna cum laude. Kelsey Vanell Eisen. Marie Elizabeth Evans, magna cum laude. Nathan Kirk Evans, cum laude. Max Wim Cohen Fagerstein, cum laude. Michelle Elaine Felterman, cum laude. Stephen M. Finn, magna cum laude. Benjamin Oliver Flaxenberg, cum laude. Marquicha Arione Forcell. Marcus Levi Foster. Garrett Brooks Fultz. Robert Lawrence Gallagher, Jr. Ruben Luis Garcia, III. Wade Graham Garrett, cum laude. Anthony Gedian. Ashley Noel Giambaluca, cum laude. Benjamin Michael Glass, magna cum laude. Brendan Michael Golden. Michael Ryan Goldstein. Judith Sherrick Grunner. Rachel Therese Gulata, cum laude. Matthew Turney Hebig. Rosalie Margaret Hogg, cum laude. Thomas Luther Hayes, II. Alexander Michael Heath, magna cum laude. Austin Joseph Height. Kristen Marie Hilferty. Dalton Drake Hershorn. Elizabeth Brevet Hoffman. Cameron David Holmes. Andrew William Hoolan. Kyle Hansen Holliston. Brendan Nolan Hughes. Rebecca Faith Hutchinson. William Chika Igbokwe. Sophia Bernadette Philomena Jayanti, cum laude. David Matthew Jensen. Russell Lamar Johnson. Noel Jolin, magna cum laude. Alexandra Michelle Camp. Lily Nicolette Kaiser. Manpreet Kaur. Kimberly Benson Korth, cum laude. Okay. Hamza Khan. Alexandra Adair King. Jonathan Mill Kirkland. Jonathan David Klett, cum laude. Juan Yusuf Nat. Jacob Evan Cronish. Gordon Charles Lamphere. Jacques Paul Landrew. Fernanda Maria Langa Resek, cum laude. Chelsea Lynn Lawson, cum laude. Jennifer Marie Liebhardt, magna cum laude. Carolyn Jeanette Livanos. Andrew Louis Lombardo, cum laude. Spencer Andrew Lowe, cum laude. Yen Tui Mai. Erin Mann. Robert Tate Martin II. Andrew Witherington Mason. Victoria Elizabeth McIntyre. Melanie Helene Melaski.
Walter Frederick Metzinger III, magna cum laude. Melissa Ann Miller, cum laude. Kelly Mitchell. A. Rebecca Motley. Amanda Ray Nicodem. James Winfield Nitze. Ryan Patrick Noor Muhammad. Derek O'Connor, cum laude. Kayla Jean Patterson. Abigail Lynn Peak. Carmen Desiree Pereira Dennis. Ana Paula Perez Funes. Alexandra Petrovic. Samantha Jean Futtenhauer, magna cum laude. James Lamar Pound III. Jennifer Nadine Richards, cum laude. Elise Michelle Rosen. Colin David Rowe. Jose Rafael Ruiz. Benjamin David Rumpf. Onsi Khalil Saleh. Marco Jose Salgado, cum laude. Joshua Sanchez Secor. Marina Munir Sawiris. No, Marina. Amy Elise Shapansky. Sorry, Amy. Douglas Carl Scheller, Jr. Rebecca Basescu Schwartz. Melissa Page Seco, cum laude. Cody Hart Sito, cum laude. Farron Joy Silverman. Alison Callahan Slaughter. Julie Lynn St. John, cum laude. Sarah Elizabeth Staub. James Levi Stoneking, cum laude. Alexandra Catherine Stork. Christopher Walsh Swanson. Kelsey Lee Tebow, cum laude. Catherine Parciola Thibodeau, magna cum laude. Brian Patrick Trepanier, cum laude. Jessica Louise Tribbett. Janae Akila Turner. Benjamin Landis Vanas. Matthew Scott Viator. Jonathan Marcus Villa, magna cum laude. Joseph Maxfield Vincent. Andrew Vincent Waters. Kevin Michael Watts. Kevin Edward White, Jr. Thomas Carey Wicker IV, cum laude. Hilary Marie Wiley. Peter Anderson Wilson, Jr. Kenneth Joseph Wink, Jr. David Henry Wolfenson. Zachary Kyle Wood, cum laude. Robert Stephen Harrison Wright. Shu Yang Xie, cum laude. Scott Carl Zienti. Joshua Adam Zuckerman. Candidates for Master of Laws. Delphine Christine Jean Laubion, with distinction. Zijun Liang. Eugenia Patricia Novoa Zubina. Zerlin Wang. Tong Yang Zheng. Yajing Zhou. Candidates for Master of Laws in Admiralty. Olawale Mustafa Abudu, with distinction. Mehmen Aliyev. Sol Argerich, with distinction. George Bafour Astare Afriye. Anthony Johan Bernau. Colin Rhodes Krug. James Robert Dunlap, with distinction. Magdalene Galitu, with distinction. Lorna Jane Gunn. Jia Yu Hua. Jiao Jiao Jing. Xuanye Li. Celia M. Ricardo. Lourdes del Carmen Sandoval Amores. Chi Yue Sun. Andres Vasquez Mejia. Yue Xu, with distinction. Chao Zhang. Hongzhe Zhang. Mingming Zhao. Chi Jung, with distinction. Candidates for Master of Laws in Energy and Environment. Sonia Ahmad, with distinction. Maria Paulina Andrade Pacheco. Ho Chung Lin. Eduardo Andres Mendoza Estrada. Daniel Fernando Noroña. Candidates for Master of Laws in International and Comparative Law. Mariela Martinez Gomez. Mauritius Friedrich Alfred Nagelmüller, with distinction. Nihal Yusuf Olu Nouri. Candidates for Master of Science. Alison Michelle Briscoe. Adelia Janelle DiMarsico. Sydney Sigourney Gray. Sydney Petit Hines. Nati Stelle Kokolo. Janet Naina Lopez. Lauren Jo Messina. Melissa Ann Myers. Eric Maxwell Newbury. Amanda Ray Nicodem. Lisa Erin Patterson. Jennifer Nadine Richards. Kirsten B.C. Tanifum. Lawless Randolph Turner. Scott Carl Zienti. Candidates for Doctor of Philosophy. Katharina Hamler.
Got a photo of the pudding over here.
Robert Michael Kosick, Jr. Melissa Ann Chigoda. Ibrahima Sek.
but we have now reached the end of our program. Please join me in congratulating the graduates and in wishing them every success in the adventures ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the class of 2017. During the recessional, please remain seated until the platform party and the graduates have exited. And then I invite all of you to join us across the way at Weinman Hall for a reception to follow. Again, congratulations to our graduates.